Okay. And this leads me to the next listener question, which comes from Nico from France, and he wants to know, what are some ways that a beginner can get into this practice of yoga? Like, what are some ways to start the practice?
Um, well, first, I think it's about first find what it is that you want to get out of it in the first place. And that is up to you. Do you want a healthier sense of spiritual contentment? Do you want to feel closer to God? Do you want to have healthier relationships in your life? Do you want a better body? Whatever your intention is, establish that, and then try different things out. It took me a while to find my lineage that made sense for me. I dabbled in Buddhism. I dabbled in uh, asana and vinyasa flow. I dabbled in the Hare Krishna movement for a little bit. Um, I seen gurus from ranging from Amma to Chota Maharaj in India, all sorts. I tried out many different things until I've finally was just struck what with the school that made sense for me. So to answer the question, this is just set out and explore. Pick up sacred texts and explore the different traditions and see which one calls to you.
Mhm.
And when you feel, it's a really subtle thing, but you know it when you know it. And when that calls to you, dive in. And diving in depends where you live, of course. Metropolitan areas are more abundant than others with great teachers, with communities, with gatherings which are called satsangs, which means sort of similar like-minded beings getting together to share in food and wisdom, and exploring that within your own community.
Yeah. And in what ways would you say that this experience can be enhanced using, psychedelics, or is it in what ways is it sufficient without the use of them?
That is a controversial question, and I think many people will have very different answers to that. There are many yogis uh, will who think that inviting external chemicals into the mix is absolutely not necessary. Um, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think, well, here's what I think. I think the answer to that question, the best model to look at is the story of Ram Dass, Richard Albert. When uh, before Richard Albert became Ram Dass, when he was still at Millbrook in upstate New York with my dad, he was doing psychedelics every weekend and completely frustrated with the idea that you go up and you come down. And that when you come down, it's like, oh my God, you feel empty. And that spiritual connection you had faded away. And I became so frustrated with that. And then he went to India and he met a man who never came down, who was always there, and who provided him a new map of consciousness. And that was Neem Karoli Baba. And gave him a whole new set of methods and tools to increase your connection. But Ram Dass did not stop doing psychedelics after he met Neem Karoli Baba. That's a really important distinction, and it is often miscommunicated and within the spiritual community is that people say that Ram Dass, well, he met Maharaji and then he never had to do psychedelics again. No, that is not true. He did continue to do psychedelics, but once he found a spiritual practice that he could do every day, the sort of the extreme kind of bell curve of kind of having to go up and go down became much more flat, much more based in equanimity. So methods are methods, man. It's like being attached to any one method is going to only create attachment. You know, you can't be attached to them in order to use them. You know, you have to be free to have them come and go. You know, and the second you become overly attached to them, then you become a zealot and a fanatic, and then you start saying that your method is better than the other person's, and that, you know, in my opinion, spiritual practice, the whole point of spiritual practice is to avoid getting to that point.
It kind of shows that.
Yeah, hope that made sense.
Yes, it kind of shows that in order to get the most benefit out of psychedelics, it's not just to pick them up and just start taking them immediately. You need to know how to use them properly, along with, you know, spiritual practice or whatever this method may be, and be able to control it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you cannot. Absolutely, man. It has to be an integrated part of your overall, you know, formula. And like you said, like you just said, you have to be able to control it. You can't let it control you. That's when problems start to occur.